What's up, people? You turn the light on. Hope you guys are having a good start to your day. I've been up since about 6 this morning. Got some stuff packed and ready to go to the post office. And I'm going to be jumping back on some commission work here in a moment. But I wanted to chat with you guys for a little bit. Let me share this out to a couple places. Oh, let's see. Settings should. Oh, let me make sure the sound is right. Nope, of course not. Why does that keep changing back? Okay, should have the right sound on now. Why is the internet being? Is the internet being slow right now, or is shit just weird? um, hmm. Yeah, I don't know why that's being a little weird, but anyway. Um, I was chatting with someone this morning, and we were talking about, indie books and um, why, when you compare to the platforms versus platforms, how they were technically kind of outselling. Um, and what I mean by that is, if you take the numbers of a indie title that has been sold since the book released, and or that issue has been released, and you compare that, the only place it gets sold is, let's say, on that creator's table at shows. If you compare that to you know um, a book that's being sold in comic shops, um, they're kind of outselling um, in that format, and that's, that makes a huge difference in what those titles were, because if they're selling that many copies in the private sector, so to speak, and the only physical place you could possibly buy that book is in that 2-day weekend at that Comic-Con, or that 3-day weekend, etc. That's pretty damn big. You know what I'm saying? That definitely says a lot about that title, and the popularity of that story or that book. And we're definitely seeing some huge numbers come from certain books. Um, and kudos to them, that happens with. That's pretty damn cool. Um, and and I've had someone else ask that same question for, okay, well, that's what's happening. Why is that uh, standing out that way, standing out so well? And I think a lot of it, the artwork, the artwork on those particular hot books are um, definitely uh, pretty good. Some of them are so-so, some of them are better. That's just the kind of the way it goes. But for the most part, they're pretty good artwork. Um, the covers are usually pretty good. The interiors are pretty good. The story writing is really good and over the top. And that's what is really pushing those books along is the storytelling. And I think we have a scenario where Andy, not just in my opinion, but a lot of people's opinions, indie comics are putting out better books, um, better storytelling, better character building, and being a bit more unique and stuff like that. It definitely I personally think is, and like I said, it's not just only my thoughts about it, but there's a lot of people who agree with that. Um, that there's just so much coming out right now that is legitimately standing up to the scrutiny of fans because uh oh, hang on. Somebody just told me the dang. Somebody just told me the damn comments are off again. Let me fix it. Jesus Christ, man. Now I gotta try to remember how to find that again. God dang it. I thought I had it set to where it was permanent. Bear with me. God dang it. So, how did they tell me to do this? They said settings. So annoying. I apologize, guys. Um, okay, guys, if you're watching this, close it out, reopen it, and let me know if comments are working out. Thank you for the heads up on that, Michael. Um, I'm gonna have to look at some point and see how to switch that to permanent. Um, all right, I just saved it. So bounce out, bounce back in, and let me know. It says they're saved. So I don't know. I don't know what the hell is going on with these settings, man. So appreciate the heads up. But yeah, so and I'm not saying there's not good storytelling coming from mainstream comics, but let's be honest and to be fair, um, mainstream comics don't really sell based on the artwork or based on the storytelling for the most part. It sells based off of lack of a better description, the addiction of buying that book. Because I've talked to many, 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 many fans over the years who buy Marvel, buy DC, or any of these other companies and these titles, and they've been buying those titles for 20 years. You know what I'm saying? So it's a completionist thing. It's I hate to say addiction because I don't mean it that severe, but it is that pattern. You've always done it. They're always going to do it. You know what I mean? They've been buying Batman titles for 30 years. They've been buying Spider-Man for, 20 years, every month, never missed an issue. That's the majority of the buying and the reason I know that is because when I ask them, what's going on in the story or what was the last book they read, I always get the same answer pretty much the majority of the time. Oh man, I've been so busy. I haven't read anything in the last 6 months, or I haven't read anything in the last year, or it's been 2 years. And I was guilty of that back in the day when I used to collect. I used to collect X-Men and Batman, and then when Image Comics came out, I collected Spawn and The Darkness and Witchblade and all these books. And I remember, there towards the end of my collecting time frame, I would be in the same boat. I would every single month I made that trek to the comic shop, and my closest, when I was a kid or 18, 19 years old, when I was driving, had my car, and even as a young adult into adulthood, my closest comic shop was 3 hours away, one way. So 3 hours and then 3 hours back. That's where our closest comic shop was. And of course, back then there was no internet, there was no ordering comics online, So if you wanted comics, you drove that damn 3 hours. Now, when I was a kid, 15, 12, that age, and I got, comics every so often, I saved up my lunch money and would go buy the newest issue of X-Men that came out that month. Luckily there were, a comic shop down the street from me, or, not down the street, but a town over about 20 minutes away. And at the local pharmacy, or, how the comics used to be. Um, so, but then they quit doing comics. So when I was about 17, about 18, 19 years old, I had to drive all the way to Memphis to get to a comic shop. So I was the same way. I would, every single month we made a trip to Memphis to hit the comic shop, and I bought the newest books of Spawn or the newest book of Witchblade, and I'd go home and I'd leave with a stack of books every single month. And I'd go home and maybe read one or two, and the rest of them I'd stick them in the box, intending to come back later and read them, and didn't. So, and a lot of people operate that way. So part of the reason is it's a habit buying. You've always bought that. You've always went to the comic shop every single month, and therefore you buy those books that you've been buying for the last, 10, 20, 30 years. And don't even end up reading the majority of it. So that's one way that I know that indie books, for the most part, are grabbing the fans as a reader, because they haven't been buying, like Psycho Sal as an example. People, that book's been out 3 years. Issue number 1's been out 3 years, and we just wrapped up issue number 9, the last book in the series. And people buy that book because they can't wait to read that book. The minute they get it, they've read it. And I know that because I've seen people at Comic-Cons buy the newest issue of Psycho Sal. And before that damn show is over, they're back over at my table telling me how they just sat down and read it while they're at the con. So that's how I know that, for the most part, some of us indie creators are damn sure putting out better stories because people can't wait to read them. You know, um, so and I'm not saying we're better than anybody else. I just mean that as far as storytelling goes and writing, I think we are putting out better product because people are buying our books, coming back for the newest issues because they love the book and they can't wait to read the next issue. And it's not a case of they've been buying the book for 10 years, so it's habit buying. Yeah. I was the same way when I used to collect. Like I said, I used to be in the same boat. I'd buy a stack of books every single month, and I might read one or two as soon as I got home, and then the rest I just stick in my damn loan box until I could get around to it. So there was no, you know, there was no emergency to it. You know what I mean? There was no, oh shit, I got to read this as soon as I get home. One or two books, like I shit you not, it would be literal one or two books, and then the rest I didn't really wasn't that big a deal. I just didn't want to miss the newest issue because that is one thing when it comes to collecting. No matter what you're collecting, you kind of become a completionist, which is why you see a lot of people bitching about so many variants to a particular book because they're a completionist. Now, I always tell people don't bitch about variants. Be glad there's variants and variety because, it allows you to have different covers and stuff, and it also helps up and coming artists. It gives them a chance to do an exclusive for a retailer or something like that to get seen and to get some exposure and to build a library of work behind their name because, it isn't like it used to be. We don't get to submit portfolios to people. Most companies don't even take portfolios anymore. They'll do a little portfolio review at certain big shows around the world. And that you can count on less than one hand where they're doing that at. So, the variance, kind of helps with that. And it gives you a variety of stuff to pick from cover quality wise and concepts. And you don't got to have it all, but like I said, some reason in collecting, that's the way that becomes. If you start buying Batman, at some point you try to go back and buy all the damn Batman books you missed. Or you got to, and no matter when, because I don't know, again, it's happened to me and I've heard other people talk about it where they're buying, X-Men. And they've been buying X-Men for, 10 years. And all of a sudden, X-Men has changed something and the stories went to shit. And everybody hates that story. But the funny thing is nobody quits buying it, which is why a lot of times, sadly, people keep creating trashy books, shitty stories, shitty art, shitty writing. And people and people keep buying it because they don't want any skips in their numerical line of book order. So they'll buy books that they know that storyline is trash out of that mentality. And I get it. I mean, I used to do the same thing. So, I mean, I was right there in the same boat. Now I don't do that. I don't really collect comics anymore. Every once in a while, I'll grab a storyline if I find out, that it's a badass storyline. I'm not buying it for any sheer value point or anything like that. And to be fair, sometimes I'll just go back and buy a trade paperback of that storyline because I care about the story. I don't give a shit about the numerical, or the monetary slap on it, because right now in the last 8 years, at least last 5 years, especially, no books are rare unless you're dealing with indie. None of these books are legit value hot books when it comes to Marvel, DC, because the majority of the books that sell out are flippers buying the books. So it's a false narrative. It's a false hype. Back in the day, if you saw a book spike to $100 in the first month it's out, it's because fans went crazy for it. Now a book will spike to $100 and it ain't got shit to do with the fans. It's because the flippers bought all the books, therefore they control the market. So that's why I don't really care too much about any of the new books. I'm not chasing Absolute Batman. I'll wait another year. If I decide I want it, I'll buy issue number 1 for $20 fucking dollars, because that's what will happen to it. And that's not a oh shit thing. That's just factual. They've proven it to us for the last 5+ years. We've watched book after book come out that's got 3,000 print runs plus, and the book spike on, week 1, day 1 to $40-$50 for a damn $10 book or $8 book. And then, in a month or so, it's a, $80 book or whatever. And then 6 months to a year later, it's a $10, $20 book. Like I said, they've proven that consistently, whether it's, hot titles because of the book or hot titles because of the artist that's on the exclusive. Like, it's all went to nickel and dime after the fact, and people's lost shitloads of money, which is another reason why a lot of people kind of throws the hate at variants, because they're not blaming what the real problem is, and that's there's too many flippers, too many resellers. They're trying to blame it on the book or the retailer that did that book. They shouldn't have done it. And it ain't got shit to do with that. So that's why I don't care about the monetary thing on it. I mean, we've got indie books that are outselling mainstream books, as far as resale value goes. I mean, I don't know how many times I've been tagged on, whatnot shows or something, or Facebook Live shows where, Psycho Sound #1 has sold for $80 to $100, and that book's been out 3 years. And I've seen that many times, or, seeing, Don't Pay the Ferryman #1 selling for, $80 to $100, and that book came out 4 years ago. The same thing applies to Do You Poos, super rare book, super hot exclusive. People love that book. A lot of people hate it. To be fair, the people that hate it are the people that don't understand it. And they hate it because it holds better value than their 3,000 print run Marvel and DC books that came out that they overpaid for because they didn't have it on their pull list at a comic shop. So therefore they had to pay $20, $30, $40, $50 for it after the fact. And then they get pissed because 6 months later, a year later, that book they paid, $50, $60 for is a $10 book. And yet the Do You Poos are still $100 books, So, yeah, but like I said, the fan base controls that. All y'all got to do is stop buying those books on day 1 and give it a few months, and they'll go down to a normal, fair price. Yeah, if you want, really and truly, I'll be blunt with you. If you want to buy comic books for monetary resale value or investment later, there's nothing wrong with that. Buy old books. Buy Golden Age, etc. Buy the Hulk 181s and the ASM 300s and the ASM 129s, and the first appearances of Thanos and the first appearances of Galactus or whatever. Buy that stuff because that stuff continues to go up in value. Now, case in point, proving my fact even more. I mean, look how spiked comic books went during COVID when everybody was getting $600 a week check. People were buying, because Hulk 180. I mean, this proves my point right here. Hulk 181 pre-COVID for a slabbed blue label, fully intact, 6.570 was selling for around $2,500. When COVID hit and everybody was getting that free $600 a week on top of whatever money they were making with whatever jobs they may have been working, self-employed or selling comics online, they took that money, they bought up all the Hulk 181s, the ASM 300s, they bought up all these $2,500 books, these $500 books, and bought multiples in some cases. I saw some people selling multiples of Hulk 181s, and then they repriced that shit on eBay for $4K, $5K. Then the next person went up. Then the next person went up. And they're around the second year of COVID. And I know this because I owned a Hulk 181 blue label. Around the second year of COVID, Hulk 181 6 to 70 had spiked to an $8,000 book. ASM 300s had spiked to a damn like $600, $800 book, give or take. And then I think it even spiked up to over $1,000 at one point. ASM 129s was up. All those, true value books tripled in their value, doubled and tripled during that time because there was so much extra money floating around. People were buying them up and reposting them for higher prices. Now, I saw one not too long ago. I think it was like last year. I saw a Hulk 181, I think a 6.5 blue label, and it was priced around $3,000. That's more than fair for that book. That's a legit, accurate price, but 8,000 plus back down to where it's supposed to be, around a $3,000 book, $2,500 to $3,000 book at that grade, and that's slabbed. So that's my point right there. So these books these days, these new books, that stuff spiked because everybody that had the influx of money bought them and repriced them for much higher than what they were. And people made bank on it. You had people paying $8,000 for one of those books, $7,000 for a Hulk 181. It was insane. And then now here you are later, all those people that paid $7,000, paid $8,000. Now it's a $3,000 book at best at that grade. Let's see. Hang on one second, guys. So what's up, Miss Delgado? So like I said, that's the patterns we're seeing. So yes, we're seeing indie books outselling mainstream books. I mean, I've seen Psycho Sal outsell Clayton Crane signed Spider-Man books, and I mean by a large margin in one Whatnot show that I got tagged in. So we know we know that that there's a market for it. We know that that the fan base that we have, Psycho Sound #1, cover A is around May of this year. We'll be passing 10,000 printed and sold if the pattern stays the way it's been going. Don't Pay the Ferryman, #1, has been out 4 years, and their cover A is over 25,000. That one's probably knocking on, I would imagine that one's knocking on 26, 27,000, if not a little more, printed and sold. That's huge. See, and that's my point about that. That's those numbers, and I'm sure there's other indie books that are doing those similar numbers. Those numbers are, for us, those numbers are from shows. Our books aren't sitting at a comic shop across the country. Hell, just up until last year, my website wasn't even around. My website's only been around about a little over a year, and year and a half, something like that. So, and the majority of the books are sold at shows, not the website. So that's so that is that's huge. Yes, you have mainstream comics that are selling big numbers, but you got to remember something. Those mainstream books, DC, Marvel, Image, Dynamite, etc., they're in every comic shop. They're all across the world, and they're doing those numbers. And yet here we are. The only place you can get our book is at our table at shows, and we're doing hell, most aren't even doing, like Chris doesn't go to nowhere near as many shows I do. He works a full-time career and stuff. This is my full-time career. So with Don't Pay the Ferryman, he's only at a handful of shows a year. And he's still doing those kind of numbers. People are buying the book off the show. They're occasionally buying the book off the website. They're buying the back issue books off the Kickstarter. But it's not, that book's not in the comic shops. We can't get our books in FOC. They block us. They won't. They make up some bullshit excuses, and I don't know what the deal is, but they just won't. They won't let indie creators put our books in FOC. And you have to be with some company in order to do it. It's such gatekeeping bullshit. And I'm gonna be blunt with you. I think the reason that we get blocked and not allowed to put our shit in FOC for comic shops to order our books is because they know our books are going to outsell the mainstream. Because if we're doing those kind of numbers, if Psycho Sal's doing 10,000 and issue number 2 through 5 aren't that far behind that, because most of the time when someone buys Psycho Sal #1 at a show, they'll come back later that day and buy every other issue I have in stock at that show. Or they buy the entire bundle of all the books I have. And so Psycho Sal, like I said, it's been out 3 years. And so all the titles, all the issues, they're not that far behind that 10,000. Issue number 2, I haven't done the numbers on it, but I would probably say issue number 2 is probably 6,000. Issue number 1s will always be your bigger, sale number by a large margin, because it's number 1. In this day and age, people don't ever know what's going to blow up and be the next movie or TV show, especially considering most platforms are shopping the indie market. But I really think that's what it is, because why else would you give a shit? If I want to put my book in FOC so comic shops can order it, and then I print those orders and I ship them to the comic shops, why does FOC or whoever that is that control it give a shit? Why does my book need to be with Lunar? Why does my book need to be with Penguin or whatever it's called, the other one? Now I get the concept is they keep all these books. I guess you have to supply a certain amount of books they keep in their warehouse for that FOC, and I get that. I can do that shit too. I mean, I can stockpile, 1,000 copies of Psycho Sal #1 or 2,000 copies of Psycho Sal #1. I can do the same thing. I don't have a problem putting money where my mouth is. Yeah, exactly, Michael. I mean, sadly, if you look at the pattern that they've shown us over the last 5 years at least, that book will probably be like, I think issue number 1 will end up crashing somewhere around $60, maybe $80. That's about it. And you'll be lucky if that is where it goes. More than likely, because let's be honest, there was a bunch of them printed. It's probably going to be a $30, $40 book. Now, but like I said, it may kind of level out around 60 to 80 in the next year or so. I would say this: if you own a copy, shit, I don't know. You might want to sell it and just because the other sad thing is, the other thing you got to keep in mind, we have a really big problem in mainstream comics, and that's YouTubers and TikTokers and so-called influencers that are telling people that's the hot book, that's the book you got to go buy. And then because people don't want to miss out, they run and buy it. Don't listen to anybody. Don't even listen to me. Go check this shit out for yourself. Make up your own mind about it. But damn sure don't listen to YouTubers and TikTokers calling themselves influencers and shit, telling you that this is the next hot book, you need to go buy it. They're paid mouthpieces. Sorry, most of them do not give unbiased opinions. They look at what's being sold on eBay And that's an inaccurate thing because it's all flippers doing most of the selling, and it's all flippers that's doing the majority of the buying. They're the ones going down to your comic shop and there's 10 copies of that book on the shelf, and that asshole buys all 10 copies for cover price and then immediately puts them on his eBay store, for 3, 4, 5 times what he paid for them. It's the same shit as Pokemon. It's the same shit as Teletubbies back in the day. Same shit as Pops and all this other shit. It's a controlled market now, and these guys they base some of their thoughts off of what they're seeing on eBay. They're not talking about the long window, and a lot of them are friends with these people. A lot of them are being paid to hype certain books or certain artists. We already know that for a fact. We've seen artists who got buddies with an influencer, or paid an influencer, or a retailer who uses an influencer, paying said influencer a percentage of sales for every damn book sold. So it's not accurate. If flippers are selling you the damn all the items, then it's not an accurate value price. If it's a YouTuber, an influencer telling you to buy from this retailer or buy from this or buy this comic, it's because they're telling you to do it because they were paid to do it, or they get a percentage of the sales. I mean, more power to you. If you want to pay an influencer to talk you up to their fan base, go for it. But fans can't be shocked when that book they paid $50 for on week 1 a year later is a damn $10 book. And like I said, it's not going to happen on everything, but it's the majority of everything. It's shit. If you got 10 books being done that way, 9 of them are fake, false hype. And really and truly, if you look at the books that came out, not counting 2024, if you look at the past 5 years from 2023 back, you can count on one hand the amount of books that came out that relatively spiked in the first month, and they leveled out and they stayed above a $50 book. Hell, I don't even know. There might be 1 or 2 that's around 100. Hang on one second. Let me grab that drink. So yeah, I definitely believe that indie books right now are not all indie books, because again, there's a huge chunk of indie that's just straight up trash. Shitty stories, shitty writing, shitty art, shitty covers, shitty concept, hell. And that's why so many of them crutch on borderline porn and fetish crap, because they can't write a story that doesn't depend on that to sell, and then they sell to the lowest denominator of society that has to look at tentacle porn and all this other shit to get by. But there are some good indie that definitely put the storytelling first, that definitely put the art as best as they can, and don't be, if there's people suggesting indie books to you, give it a try, even if the artwork's poor. Because I'll be blunt with you, paying people to draw books is expensive. It's not everybody can afford the best artists and stuff like that. If you're lucky, you might find someone outside the country that draws interior pages well for $50 a page. And that's just for the art. That's not counting the color. If you're hiring somebody in the US, somebody that's got decent art skills, you might be paying $100, to $150 a page just for somebody to draw it. So sometimes some people's, that's why I don't really dog the artwork too much. I care more about the writing. Now, don't get me wrong, good artwork sells books. and keeps you engaged, that's for sure. But the writing is definitely the more important in my opinion. And yeah, there's a good bit of indie stuff out right now that you guys should definitely check out. Don't trap yourself into this weird ass loyalty bubble that the only thing you read's Marvel, or the only thing you read's DC, or the only thing you read is the main three companies. Like, really, especially if you have people in your circle that are telling you, hey, you should go try this book. It's really good. Give it a shot. Even if it's a genre that you're not really that into, give it a shot. Because, like I said, there's definitely certain genres I'm not necessarily a big fan of, but I've read the comics in that genre for certain creators, and I'm like, okay, that was pretty damn good. Because, I talk to people and I read some of the new stuff, and these companies need to rethink their writing. Because when I look at some of the stuff that's come out in the last, 5, 6 years, and then I compare that to the stuff I grew up with through the 80s, because I was born in 75. So I was collecting comics in the mid 80s range, all the way up until, mid 2000s. And the writing was definitely, in my personal opinion, was way better back then. When you have books like The Long Halloween, or even The Death of Superman, these huge storylines, Extinction Agenda, or Inferno, or dude, they were some incredible damn story writing. And now you look at some of these stories now, and I'm just like, wow, that's bland. There's a lot of catering, and that's kind of weird too, that you're trying to cater to a small portion of the community that scream the loudest about shit. So you end up with really poorly written characters and books, or they have to crutch on certain things to try to make themselves important, instead of just being a hero or a villain or whatever. It has to check off certain boxes, which has not shit to do with the story. Or force fed, political opinions and bullshit like that. And, I know me personally, I don't read a comic or want to be involved in a comic based off of a character's identity politics bullshit. I want to read a comic to escape real world shit. I want a story that's engaging and a story that's powerful. And I don't want a story that's belittling others or breaking down others, or again, pushing agendas and shit just to feel important, especially when it's catering to just the screaming small portion that isn't really buying your books any damn way. Let's be blunt about that shit. And that's one of the unique things, or not unique, but one of the cool things about indie is, indie doesn't have to answer to anyone. If you want to write those types of books, you can go for it. And I'm sure there's fan base out there, a small one, but I'm sure there's a fan base that'll buy it, knock yourself out. But also, you don't have to placate any editors. You don't have to worry about the mass, opinions of people you work for, because you're doing it yourself. So, I think that's one of the reasons you still have a lot of people latching, or not a lot of people latching on, but starting to latch on, because indies definitely picked up over the last 8 years, and especially the last 4 or 5 years. Because again, we're seeing, our numbers are showing that stuff's picking up, and we're a small drop in the bucket. But we are putting out quality stories with quality writing and good art and good cover work and things like that. And we're pushing, we do push the envelope a little bit on getting people out of their comfort zones a little. Like when you read, like even when you read like Psycho Sal, yes, it's a psychological horror comic, but it deals with, trauma and things like that that are happening with someone who went through a really traumatic thing, you know, and then how the people, you know, the storyline, the environment around them is infected or affected. And there's a lot of other books out there like that too. Now, yeah, some of them's a bit heavier than others, and some of them are dealing with a bit more serious subject matter than others. And some of them are just fun and over the top and silly. And you know, and that's, like I said, that's meant to push barriers a little bit because, especially when it comes to comedy related comics, or movies or whatever, you know, people's watered their shit down for so long over the last 10 years or so. People are scared to say any damn thing because they're worried they'll offend somebody. And really and truly, the best mentality you need to have is, if you're offended, that's your own damn problem. That's something you need to work out. You know, you don't get to dictate how the other people speak or how other people do fandom or anything like that, you know. So, and like I said, I think that's why a lot of people are kind of latching on to indie a little more, is because the shit's not watered down. The shit is talking to people like actual adults, and they're not trying to placate and sugarcoat shit for you know, the sensitive crowd. They can go play with their crayons and coloring books. But because I think too many people today have this entitled mentality that the world has to revolve around them, and you're just, you know, we're all just a drop in that damn bucket. You know, even my opinion doesn't matter. You know, if you listen to me, cool. If you give some of the stuff I suggest to try, awesome. If you don't, that's cool too. But you don't get to dictate what I create. You don't get to dictate what I write. You don't get to dictate how I think. And you know, that's just not how this shit works. So that's one of the things I do love about indie is they're not beholden to any shareholders or upper management or editors or anything like that. Whereas sadly, Marvel, DC, Image, etc., they are. They have to placate to certain people because, you know, certain people are bosses of them, and they want the shit their way, and they don't care about the characters. They just want to tell some agenda. And sadly, it does happen. But you know, so, you know, and as far as fandom goes, you know, just enjoy what you enjoy. You know, don't worry about whether somebody else thinks it's stupid or they don't like it. You don't got to like everything everyone else likes, and you don't have to you know, you don't have to play those stupid games. You know, if you want to read certain comics, go for it. If you want to listen to certain music or watch certain movies, go for it. Stop letting, you know, the idiots you know, that might be around you dictate what you should do. Don't be ashamed of your fandom. You know, you know, it's we don't have the right uh you know, to people really need to learn that we truly don't have the right to dictate what other people enjoy. You know, as long as it's legal, as long as it's not hurting anybody, we have no right to tell somebody what they're doing wrong, especially in fandom. You know, if you want to create certain books that shake the tree, go for it. You know, hell, I mean, you can't grow as a person unless you're being challenged. You know, sitting in a echo chamber and the only people you want around you are the same exact people that think the way you do, that regurgitate the same shit you do over and over, you'll never grow as a person. You know, so give other stuff a try. You know, try out genres of comics that you've never read before. Again, you never know what you might discover you love. You know, don't be afraid to you know, to give you know, non-mainstream company books a shot. And damn sure don't buy anything because some damn you know, even me. I'm not an influencer or anything, but don't listen to influencers. Don't go buy from this retailer because the influencer told you. Don't go buy this comic because some influencer on YouTube or TikTok told you to go do it. Like I said, even me, take it with a grain of salt, do what you want to do. If they're making suggestions, that's cool, but that's not what they do. They're constantly telling you what you need to go buy. Oh, this is the hot book of the week. You better go get this before it's gone. It's all mouthpiece paid for bullshit. And if they don't like what I'm saying, they can kiss my ass. I hate seeing the way they manipulate people, the way they try to dictate what should be bought and shouldn't be bought. And like I said, and me being behind the scenes, I know them. I see them at shows, at some of these shows where they're walking around talking to certain retailers, and those retailers are talking about hiring them to promote their online store and shit to their followers. They don't know shit about that store. They don't know shit about that book. They don't know shit about that retailer. And but yet they're being paid to tell them how good they are, tell you how trustworthy they are, tell you how badass they are, tell you you need to go buy from them. And they've never operated with them. I mean, I'm not shitting you. Certain big names in the comic influencer community, I've been at shows watching them talk to retailers about getting hired to promote their product. And again, they don't know shit about the product. How can you promote somebody if you have no clue how they ship? You have no clue how they run their business. You have no clue how they handle quality control. You have no clue what the products are. Yet you're over here telling people on YouTube and TikTok that you better go, you need to go buy from this retailer. You need to go buy from this store. Or you need to go buy these books because, they're hot this week. They're about gone. You better get you one. It's bullshit. It's mouthpiece paid for bullshit. So buy what you want, read what you want, enjoy what you want, but do it because you want to. Don't listen to paid mouthpieces hyping shit up and telling you where to go when the majority of the time they've never tested it, they've never tried it, they've never been interacting with it outside that moment of being hired. It is what it is. If they don't like it, I don't know what to tell you. I might as well shake that tree too, because that's something we're seeing more and more common now, is paid mouthpieces trying to control the market, telling people what to read and what not to read. But anyway, I'm going to get off here, guys. I just want to take a break and chat with you guys for a little bit. I'm going to get back in here and get back to work. I'm working on commissions and things like that. Trying to get some stuff ready for next week. I leave, weather permitting, because all the bad weather's north of me. Weather permitting, I'll be leaving here like next Friday, headed to Akron, Ohio, for Akron Comic-Con, February the 7th. Is that next weekend? Hold on. Yes. So next weekend, February the 7th, I'll be in Akron, Ohio at Akron Comic-Con. It's a one-day event on that Saturday. A huge thank you to Jason and them for bringing me in as a guest invite. But like I said, weather permitting, because all the bad weather is north of me with a lot of closed roads. Even some of our interstate in Mississippi was closed. Interstate 55 going that direction was shut down on one side for a certain distance of counties. And there were people stuck on the interstate for 30 plus hours, stuck in traffic, couldn't turn around, couldn't get out. Weather permitting, I'll be in Akron, Ohio for Akron Comic-Con, February the 7th. But anyway, I'm going to get over you too, Michael. Guys, heads up. I put up the new raffle for the original art for my 11 by 17 pencils for my Department of Truth Zero cover I did for Image Comics. It's a portfolio raffle. So it has that custom portfolio that Comic Capsule created. It has original copy. It has a copy of the actual book, signed copy in the portfolio. It has the original art in there with COA. Go grab a spot on that raffle. It's damn good odds for something that big, and it's damn good entry fee for something that valuable. It's a 3-person winner raffle too. So first person gets the original art, the signed book, the portfolio with the COA. Second place gets a signed and remarked copy of Department of Truth Zero, the Elvis Presley cover. and third place gets a signed copy of that book. So go grab some spots on that raffle. You guys said you wanted me to raffle more original art. So I worked out I worked out a thing with Comic Capsule to get some of those portfolio display things meant for displaying original art with the book. Go grab a spot. Also, we're almost full on the Batman Sideshow Premium Format raffle. Out of my personal collection. It's right down here on the shelf, but that damn statue is gorgeous. It is 25 inches tall. It's a 1/4 scale. Weighs 30 pounds. It's 25 inches tall. That raffle's almost full. Damn good odds and entry fee on that raffle. $900 prize with the shipping. Shipping on that damn statue is $300, just for heads up. But the shipping's included. So go grab a spot on that raffle. Also, the new Batman print that's coming, along with the new Ghost Rider print. The metal versions, pre-sale of those are up right now. Only 30 being created, signed and numbered. Comes with COA. They are. Did my internet just hiccup or something? I think my internet is acting weird. So there's the Batman. So that pre-sale is up right now for the metal versions of these two prints for 2026. 30 being created of each. They come signed, they come numbered, they come with COAs. And only 20 of each are being available on pre-sale. The last 10 of each I'll take to shows. But go grab one of those on the pre-sale. Great prices. They are almost sold out of the 20. So go get you one. You guys voted for that damn metal. Go grab one. It's kind of weird seeing people vote wanting me to do a metal version and then they're not buying it. Like, why are you voting? Go get one. But anyway, I'm going to get off here. You guys have a great day. Go jump on the raffles or go grab you a medal before they're sold out. Love you guys. Be good. Remember, read what you want, collect what you want, but do it because you want to, and don't be afraid to give new stuff a try. You might be surprised at what you find. There's a lot of really good books floating around the indie market right now. But have a great day, guys. I will talk to you later. Take care.